afternoon, everybody, and I hope that you are having a wonderful day. The snow is disappearing, thank God. Unfortunately, I'm a bit grumpy and I don't like snow because it's so cold. So yes, that is now going, and today is the day of another. I nearly said Maisie's Stories then, but that was its original name and then it got changed. So today is another Our Stories, and today I am joined by Steve. So if you are following me on Facebook or Instagram, you will have seen a lot of Steve's work because we do a lot of work together. We do a lot of styled shoots, and Steve comes to the boutique quite a lot when we're allowed. So I thought it would be time for him to tell his story. So let me just bring him in. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Charlotte. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a lovely little session you've got going here. I've really enjoyed your earlier ones, so I'm very privileged to be here and talking to you today.
Thank you. I'm really excited to have you on. Because you have a little bit of a similar story to me, kind of, in that you haven't been doing this forever and we were new within COVID. And so it's exciting to hear all about the things that you've done.
Excellent. Good.
Okay, so I'm just going to start with the biggest question of them all. Please, can you share your story with us, how you have got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I was born in London in 1958. As a young lad, I emigrated with my parents to South Africa back in 1972, and then came back to the UK myself in 1978, sort of as a 20-year-old to have a bit more time in the UK where I was born. However, what that did, those few years that I was over there, it kind of Africa got into my heart, and you'll notice from the pictures behind that it's a big influence on me even now. So I got married to the lovely Karen back and spent 14 years married to Karen. We had 2 kids. We divorced. We divorced after 14 years, but have remained very good friends, which is great. And then after 2 years, I met the lovely Helen, and I've been with Helen and married to Helen now for coming up 20 years. So another huge influence on my life. But I now have the 2 children from my first marriage, and 2 grandchildren, one of whom just turned 14 the other day, and one of whom is 11. So yeah. So I worked for Bostik, selling glue for 22 years. I started in photography about 8 years ago. I've always loved taking photos, but 8 years ago I kind of started to take it a lot more seriously. But and decided to go full time. I made that decision and put my notice in 3 weeks before COVID hit. But we ploughed on through. I finished with Bostik at the end of September, and have been fully professional photography ever since, and absolutely loving it, even given the hard circumstances you and I and so many others face. So yeah. So basically, yeah, that was my that's how I got to where I am, I guess. But I think the defining moment in photography came to me in 2008. Helen and I were on one of our quite many trips to South Africa, and we'd gone up Table Mountain in Cape Town. You go in the late afternoon so that you can sort of see the city during the day, but then you stay up there, watch the sun set into the sea, and then go down over the lights of the city. So it's really spectacular. And while we were up there, there was a young Brazilian lady who was stood with her digital SLR camera, and she said, "Oh, would you take a picture of me?" The moon was coming up and it was really lovely. And she said, "Oh, would you take a picture of me with my camera, please?" So I've never held a digital SLR before. Took this digital SLR, took the picture. I've never seen it, so I don't know what it came out like. But the moment I held it in my hands, I just thought, I've got to get one of these.
Really?
So, literally within a couple of weeks of coming back, I bought my first digital SLR and just fell in love with. When I realised I'd always loved taking snaps, but I'd always, I guess, it was when I realised that you could do stuff with that camera,
Yeah.
background out, change your lenses or whatever. It started off as a hobby, became the most expensive hobby I'd ever done, and then realised that perhaps I should earn supplement my income so that I could afford all this equipment. But so that's kind of how I got into the photography.
Wow.
Well, sorry, I went on.
No.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a question? So you lived in South Africa.
Yes.
Why? If you love, because knowing you, I know how much you love South Africa and you love the animals and all of that.
Yeah.
What made you come back to England?
I left England as a 12-year-old boy with my parents and brother, and so while I was there, obviously it was during the really apartheid years, which never sat comfortably with me, of course. I loved it. I finished my schooling over there. I had lots of good friends. To this day, I still have people I regard as brothers and sisters rather than friends. But so it'll always be in my heart. But out of curiosity, I wanted to come back. During the time I was over there, there was no entertainment from overseas because of the restrictions and whatever. Everything a teenage boy or a boy going into his 20s was interested in just wasn't allowed over there, really. So I came back out of curiosity. Met Karen. We very soon married, and it became less of an option, to go and live there. Karen suffers with lupus, which is a terrible thing, but is affected by strong sunlight. So we couldn't even go there very often in those days.
Yeah.
But so I stayed back, and then of course you have children and eventually grandchildren and whatever. So I'll always be. We call ourselves Soties. We're stuck between two continents.
Yeah.
And I'll always be a wanderer, and I'll always go back to Africa, partly because of the sort of photography that I absolutely love to do. But and my dad and my brother still live there, so I'm very lucky. In normal circumstances, I go back once every couple of years. So
Does Helen like it there?
Helen kind of fell in love with it the moment I took her the first time, and very much fell in love with it. And as a matter of fact, one of the big traditions in South Africa that you've heard me talk about is braai, which is the South African barbecue.
Yeah.
And South African men are very, we're the braai masters. We're the people who do the cooking on the barbecue. And most of my South African friends will admit that Helen's actually probably a better braaier than they are. So she's got it in her heart as well. So yeah.
Oh, so that's very similar to the Australians then. When we were in Australia, they were very much no one can touch a man's barbecue ever.
Yeah. So, from what I see of the Australians, and I've got a lot of Australian friends, so I might have to be a bit careful here, but they don't really barbecue because they do it on gas. And so for me, I'm a bit of a barbecue snob or a braai snob. I won't use fire lighters. I try and use. I even import South African wood to barbecue on.
Oh my goodness!
So yeah, it's a bit of a ritual for me and most South African guys. So really, there's quite a passion actually. So.
Well, it's a nice thing to be passionate about.
Oh wow! Well, I think we've already sort of semi-agreed through Carmel at the wonderful Long Furlong Farm. I think we've already agreed that once this is all over, all of us wedding suppliers need to get down there, and I'll do the cooking. I'm happy to do it. And we'll have a traditional braai. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Right, let's go back to you. So, what would you say is the most important thing that you would like to tell us about yourself? What should we know about Steve?
Well, Where do I start? The most important thing, I'm passionate. I love people. I love socializing. One of the reasons I love doing the wedding photography that I do is because I love to mix with people, get to know their stories, and really kind of give it my best. So yeah, that's probably the most important thing, I guess. Other interesting facts people might not know about me: I'm claustrophobic. I won't use lifts. I've used about 2
Really? I
lifts
didn't
in the
know that
last
about
40
you.
years. I'll use stairs all the time. No, absolutely. I'm terrified. You wouldn't want to see me get into the lift. It's a horrible sight. What else? I was once phone a friend on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Yeah.
Were you?
Yes, yeah. I love trivia and questions and that kind of thing. And yes, I was phoned up by a very good friend that I used to work with in those days, Caroline, and she phoned me up. So I appeared on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. As a matter of fact, she was so funny.
Right.
She got it right. She won £32,000. So she got to the 32. I got from I think 8 to 16,000 pounds. And
Well
it was an easy question. I'm going to set it for all your viewers now, but the question was so easy for me because I love music and films and whatever. But it was Paul McCartney wrote the theme tune to which James Bond film? So
I have no idea.
So anybody out there? No. It was Live and Let Die. So, but Caroline was so funny on the way she responded to when I was talking to her on the phone that they actually used a few years later. They used our bit on the Best Bits video that they brought out of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and you can still find us on YouTube. The clip is still on YouTube of our little bit where I phoned in. So yeah.
There you are, famous Steve. You've made it. You've made it.
Fame at last.
Okay, so let's imagine that COVID is done and dusted. I think we're all dreaming for that day. What are you most looking forward to for 2021?
Getting out and photographing people again. I love all types of photography. I've spent a lot of time in the garden photographing birds and flowers and whatever. But there's only a certain amount of time that you can do selfies.
Yeah.
I know you just said, just before I came on, I know you just said that you hated snow. I've been dying for snow. I love snow when I don't have to go anywhere except walk around the village with my camera. So the other evening I walked around and we got some photos which hopefully I'll convert to Christmas cards for next year. But yeah, and I took a lovely photo. I think you saw it of Helen trying to catch the snowdrop as they were coming around. So that's the first real kind of photography I've done outside for a while. So yeah, to answer your question, I can't wait to go back to weddings and events and headshots and portraits and that kind of thing. So yeah.
And so what was the best thing that happened to you last year, 2020? What's your most memorable moment?
Well, it's got to be going full time, even though it wasn't under the best of circumstances, but going full time for the photography. It was falling in love again with my garden, our garden, and the wildlife, the birds. I never realised just how many birds we got in the garden. So time in the garden in the first lockdown, they were just coming up. They were coming up to us like we were old friends, and I just loved that side of it. And then really it was just meeting a great bunch of people like yourself and Jordan and Carmel and all the people that we've got to know through our wedding contacts and just supporting each other. That's been a real highlight as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a new group of friends as well as colleagues.
Oh, you're such a softie.
I do cry a lot at TV and films.
Yeah, I've heard that about you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just talk a few trivial things about you, just so that we can get to know you as a person. Sorry, Lottie's just come. She obviously wants to say hello, so she's just come to wag her tail around you. What book are you reading at the moment?
So I'm reading it's a photography. It's half photography, half. It's a book called Wild Encounters. It's by a wildlife photographer called David Yarrow. What I love is he puts these wonderful photos on of elephants and lions and polar bears and whatever, but he tells the story of how he got these photos.
Oh, wow.
That's a really interesting book. Sorry, say that. I lost you for a second. Say that again.
Sorry, yeah, no, I just said that sounds amazing that he describes how he got the photograph.
Yeah, it's a great book, and but the other one that I've just finished reading, which I'd highly recommend to everybody, is Richard Osman's book, The Thursday Murder Club. You know Richard Osman off of the TV.
Yeah.
And he wrote his first novel, and I've just finished reading that. It's kind of like a whodunit, but with a sense of humour. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. So for people who are not necessarily into their photography books, that's kind of the one I'd recommend at the moment.
Oh, amazing. I might have to look for that one.
I can lend it you. I'll finish it.
And we can't fall out about this, but what is your favourite box set?
Grey's Anatomy.
Yes!
No, it's not.
No!
No, it's not. Okay, so I've got three.
You're not allowed three. You've got to pick one.
Got to pick one. It's one called This Is Us, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and Breaking Bad. It's one title, but
all together.
No, it's This Is Us, which is on Amazon Prime at the moment, is just fantastic. I told you, there's not an episode goes by where I don't have to make an excuse that something's got in my eye, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I started watching it again the other night, so I've picked up where I left off.
Isn't it?
I must have left off though because it was traumatic. So I'm not going to say where it was in case somebody hasn't watched it, but it was so traumatic that must have been why I stopped. And then I remembered in season 2.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I know where you are then.
Yeah.
I know the traumatic bit. It's so well written, the way that it goes backwards and forwards in time, and the stories kind of intersect and whatever. I think it's just marvellous. So yeah, very, very, very good. And for you, I think the one I'd recommend for you, which I've mentioned to you before, is The Marvellous Mrs. Maisel, because the costumery in that is just out of this world. I know you love the 50s and 60s, and the outfits in this are just fantastic, but a lovely story as well. So yeah, I need to get on that. I definitely do. Maybe I have to give Grey's Anatomy another go, because we watched season 1. Maybe I'll give it another go on your recommendation.
Is that all you've done, season 1?
Yeah, maybe season 2 as well. I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Oh my god, yeah, no, get back into it. It's amazing. I've watched it so many times. There's a young lady in Burbage who's a friend of mine in Burbage, called Olivia Broadfield, and Olivia has had some of her songs played on Grey's Anatomy. Oh. So yeah, so I do have a connection with the show. Claim to fame again. That was your second claim to fame then. Yeah. Okay, so please can you just leave us with your one piece of advice for maybe life rather than photography? Yeah, okay. Well, I would say growing up is compulsory. Growing old is compulsory. Growing up is a choice you make. Always stay young in your heart and in your mind, and it is never too late. I've embarked on my full-time photography career at the age of 62. I could have said to myself, it's too late. You know, I've left it too late. It's never too late. Do what you love. Stay young. Stay safe, of course, and healthy. But never lose that. Never use that child within you. Children dream, and we can all achieve those dreams if we dream hard enough. Oh, that's so lovely. Thank you so much, Steve. It's so lovely to chat to you.
It's
And
been
thank
lovely.
you for joining us.
Ah, wonderful. And carry on with our stories, because they really are, they really do brighten up a, lockdown. So that's fine.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, there's just some comments that I've totally missed. So let me just quickly.
You think
Um,
they're watching?
yeah, there's been one person watching. That's it.
No, that's fine.
So
That's in the other room.
Jane and Gail are very excited about the barbecue.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yes. Emma Gent says, great advice, Steve.
Oh, thank you.
And Jane has said again, really interesting listening to you, Steve. Totally agree with it's never too late. And Jordan said it's a really lovely saying, Steve. Very inspirational.
Oh, thank you, Jordan. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening in. I hope I didn't bore you to tears, but yeah.
Oh, and Annabelle has just commented as well, saying, brilliant, it's never too late. So thank you all, everybody, for the comments as well. That's really lovely.
Nice to hear.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.